Okay, in this video, I'm going to talk about socio-economic abuse. And that is, I'm going to use an example of when a husband wants to control his wife, maybe even the whole family, if they have kids, through money. Okay, this is just one way they might try it. Not all of them do. And it doesn't have to be a husband and wife. It doesn't have to be the husband or the wife. But it's when somebody wants power and control over somebody, and they do it through finances, financial. Okay, let me just get right into this. Now, if a husband is an abusive husband, and some people would call them narcissists these days, and a lot of people call everybody narcissists that have bad abusive behaviors. And they don't have to be a narcissist. It could be somebody who's borderline. I'm not here to diagnose anybody, but it could be borderline personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, like psychopathy and sociopathy, psychopaths and sociopaths, And it can be none of those. It could be other. It could be comorbid, So you've got to be careful when trying to diagnose, leave it to a healthcare professional. But but what do they do, and how do they work, and why? Okay, and there is so much to this. There's no way I'm going to get it on one video. And I could be wrong, remember? But one of the ways I've seen this happen, and not just to me, I've had it happen to me, at one point, but I've seen other people, I've seen other women go through this. That's why I'm going to use the example, because of something I know, I've seen. And what the husband would do is to keep her down, to where basically she couldn't go for, get a good enough job to be able to support herself. Okay? She would be dependent on him for money. Like when you're a child and you go to get your, what is it called? Weekly, you know what I'm talking about. It's been a long time since I've been a child. But, what is that word? My goodness, you don't use it, you lose it. But yeah, one of the women I knew, she would have to go to her husband, she would get, $20 she said a day, and I was like, that's a lot more than I spend a day, but okay. And she would have to ask him, for the money. And of course, it would depend on if he wanted to give it to her. Now, she's not a child, she's an adult, but he would keep it to where she couldn't get a job. And, there are so many ways that they can do that. And so that way, she would have to come to him like a child would go to their parent or parents. It's an ego trip. It's abuse, all around. This is my opinion, like I said. Okay, and there might be other ways too that they do it to control what the woman, she can do, such as her. He gets his degree. That they get married. He gets his, and she wants to get hers, and he does everything to sabotage it. Sabotage is the biggest thing in this, that I think, and he does anything to sabotage it, or if she gets a job and, something that, the sabotaging a career, so she can't go to school and get something that she would make money, enough money to leave, so she has to work, other jobs. Maybe she's not talented in these other jobs, but if, say, she does get a job, and what he will do, could do, is to, like, the day that she has to go to, start her new job, or go to that interview, the night before he would start a fight, or that morning he would, cause a fight, push her buttons, push her button, push her button. So she's miserable, before she, goes into this interview, or the first day of her job, miserable, because he's done this, okay? And people who actually do feel, do have feelings, these kinds of monsters, these abusive people, they usually don't have very many feelings that, maybe for themselves, or a select few people, if at all. But, she's feeling it. She's miserable. She's been up all night. He's been throwing a temper tantrum all night. She's up all night, and she's got bags under her eyes from crying so much. And here it is. What kind of impression is she going to make? So how is she going to come off on the first day? Some people will call it just financial abuse, economic abuse. I'm adding the sociological part to this. At least I think I am. And so socially, she's going to be, people are going to notice. People in the social world are going to notice, and the combination just doesn't match. When you try to start a new job and here you are looking like you haven't had any sleep and you haven't had any, you're going to, usually when you start a new job, you're trying to study for that job. You're learning something new, you're in training, but how are you going to concentrate? How are you going to keep it? And that they work it perfect, that they know how to do it, know when exactly to do it. It might be even that morning as you're leaving to go and they say something awful, and you're down, and you're depressed, and you're sad, or you're crying, or whatever it is you're feeling, walking into a new job, Okay, and I remember years ago I was working in a place, and this woman, she was getting a job. She was going to start the job, and as it turned out, she was honest about, to the person who was the manager, about that she was getting a divorce, and her she needed a job, and her husband, I don't know exactly when it came out, but basically her husband was going to try to ruin her job, and started trying to ruin her job, and they let the woman go. Oh boy, was I upset. But in a way you can't, because they said the husband is violent, and he might come up to the where she worked, and it was mainly women. It was a female dominated field, and he might harm the rest of them. And you sit there and you listen to that, and you think to yourself, you feel really bad for her, and but at the same time you worry for yourself and others. So what can you do? What can a person do to help somebody like this? For her to be able to, he's ruining her chance. It's another socioeconomic abuse, and he's ruining her chance. And how many of us have heard? I've heard from both men and women about this. That somebody they broke up with, or ended a relationship, divorced, whatever it was, would call them at work and try to make them lose their job. So we know it happens. But if you're someone there who's, like I just mentioned, saw that, what do you think? Really? What if you were in that situation? Would you tell the other people you worked with that this might happen? And then you're not warning them that he might come in and go postal, and that's a no term, I know, but you know what I'm saying. Now I don't know if the woman actually went back with him or what, but I've heard so many stories, and known pretty much all of them, or at least met them, like worked with them or something. But that's how they do it, and that's a form of control. Now, the reason why I say, that of borderline, and I could be wrong about this, but from what I understand, borderlines, some of them, the ones that have the narcissistic tendency, maybe all of them, I don't know, but some of them hate the thought of being left alone. Or somebody to leave them, to be abandoned. Like I said, I don't think it's all of them, and it might not be just them. It could be narcissistic people too. Anybody really. So that's one of the reasons they do it. Not only just to dominate, but also to keep them from leaving them. Maybe they know that nobody else would put up with them. Even that person might not want to put up with them, so that's why they're getting a job. I shouldn't be saying this right now because I'm looking for a job. But you know what I'm saying. It might just sound too close, but it's not. But yeah, they're wanting to get a job so they can get out of that. And that person knows it. The abusive person knows it, or even just suspects it, even if it's not the case. They don't want that person because, eventually they might be able to leave them. Okay, I'm not here to give anybody any kind of counseling or, anything like that. Suggestions or anything. But me, I'm trying to figure out what would I think? What would I do? How would I see it? And how would, if somebody came up to me and somebody close to me, I've seen that in the past, so I know what I would do. But, it doesn't work for everybody because, these people are dangerous. Some of them can be very dangerous, and it's physically dangerous. They can be physically, they can be in so many ways other than just, I don't want to say just, but socio-economically, they can be dangerous in many ways. And it is that you have to really, know the person and be right, there in your physical world. And even then, any kind of advice you give them could put them at risk, in harm's way. They could die. They could get killed. They could anything. It's sad, but it's true. But I think when we were younger, women would talk about this much more open, and openly. Open, we're more open about it. And in that same thing with suggesting, giving advice, and it would be basically hide some money, and that's risky because if you get your own, post office box and your own banking account, your own whatever, that he can find it. Like I said, it doesn't have to be the male or the female, male or the female, whatever is, the situation. But he can find it, and then it can lead to abuse, more abuse, and or the threat might be there, like especially if you live far away from your family, that person might, it's odd that they do this, but I've known ones to do it, to tell you to go back to your family. When you don't have the finances to go back, and a way to get there, they'll keep that from you. They're going to keep whatever it is, but to keep you there. But the whole thing of hiding the money, let me get back to that before I get too scattered here. Hiding that money, what else is a person going to do? And like I said, that person might find out. And do you have a friend you can trust enough to hold the money for you? Or, or have they, isolated you so much you don't have friends anymore? You can't give it to a friend. And at this point, maybe you can't even trust somebody, Whew, yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot more to this. And like I said, I'm not going to get it all into one video, but it's really on my mind is, that of the way they work this, the people who do this, to keep somebody, that, especially like when you're young and you might have aspirations, you might want to go to college, or you might want to go, learn a skill. Not everybody has to go to college. Not everybody has to get degrees, but, you can learn a skill, get certification, you can, whatever. And you want to do it when you're young, and then you work up or start your own business, whatever. And they keep you from it. You don't get that life back. You don't get those years back. You don't get that time back. So, and they do it. They do it. And a lot of people, especially before now, nowadays there's much more information out there, but in my, back then, people didn't know about this, not too many. And it wasn't that much information on it, to help a person to start to develop something to where they, really, everybody says, and it should be, get counseling. Get a professional, qualified professional counselor or whatever it is in your area to help you work through this, to help you get out of that, to help you find the right way, what's good for you, what is your situation and how dangerous is it and what you should do. And yeah, okay, like I said, there's much more to this. But if you want to subscribe to this channel, click the circle. If you want to watch another video on this channel, click one of the rectangles. And if you want to share on your own social media, and you can, go ahead. Feel free to do so, and give it a thumbs up. and I'll talk to y'all in another video.